Hi, my name's John Twigg. I've come down from Campbell River to do a special show here on Carnegie TV with Faye Leung, the famous hat lady. Faye, thanks very much for coming in.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, and thank you for coming to Vancouver.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Well, thank you.
Gung hei fat choi in the year of the monkey this year.
Yeah. Well, we've known each other for a while, pretty long actually, and I know that you have an amazing history. Now, I think some people know a fair amount about your history, but I'd like to go back to the beginning. You were born in BC, were you not? In Victoria.
I'm the third generation born and raised in Victoria, and born in Victoria, raised in Vancouver.
Yeah.
My mother is second generation born and raised here and never set foot outside of Canada.
Yeah.
So we got to dig back from a long history of Canadian Chinese.
Well, that's funny you should say that, because I was going to explore, you know, we know there's a lot of Chinese Canadians in BC, but you know, you're a Canadian Chinese because, you know, you were born and raised.
Even though I am born and raised here, and my mother's born and raised here, but we're still considered as Chinese and not recognized as Chinese Canadian. That's the saddest part during the lawful discrimination and restriction at that time against all Chinese. And that my mother and her siblings were not allowed to enter the Canadian or the Western or the English school, so they're English illiterate because we're Chinese. We're not allowed to enter. Just like the blacks in the United States are not allowed to be to the education system.
Well, were you able to go to a public school? I'm not sure.
After that, my mother's, my mother is a family of 10 siblings. So at Mabel time, she was able to go to the English school, but like a one-room school in Northwood, just a one room to learn just the basic, not the whole education system.
Oh, okay.
So, and then that was slowly graduate. So in my area, then we were able to go to the Canadian school, like Strathcona. Strathcona School in here in Pender Street and Jackson, but it's still not the same. We don't. We didn't have phonics and whatnot, so we're still Chinglish, not real English.
You can say that, not me. Now, your father operated a school in Victoria, did he not?
My father and mother is very prominent community leader. My father, Leung Chap-Kao, my mother, Kate, they were founder of the Chinese public school, the Guangji Chinese public school, and also was educator. My father was a Chinese classical scholar, and they had the Chinese Guangji Public School on the 320 East Pender at the corner of Gore Avenue in Vancouver, Chinatown.
What about the one in Victoria? Was that
Victoria
not theirs?
is a Chinese public school, WACU, Chinese public school in Victoria on Fiskart Street at 600 block, across from the police station.
Your photographic memory is amazing.
Oh, I can still even see it, and as I talk to you, and I can vividly remember in my photographic memory. And that Chinese school became the school to educate the Canadian-born Chinese from that area, because they couldn't, like I said earlier, my mother and all that couldn't enter the school, so that's why that Chinese public school was to educate those my mothers and their siblings and their friends. And the scholar was brought in from China to teach them. Well, and there's a point that I've been hollering at the government, who doesn't know they charged those scholars $1,000 bond to come then at that time
1930s?
1920s to teach.
Just imagine how much that is now.
Yeah, to teach. In 1929, my father paid $1,000, and right up until 1948, 49, my uncle Stephen, who was a teacher at the school, and my husband Dean Chun Kong Leung, $1,000. My father-in-law put up that $1,000, and that's a lot of money at that time. And I have been telling the federal government and BC government, you talk about the head taxes, you talk about all that other taxes. What about this? And what about that you had to have it before that they can land in Canada? The job is only to teach as an educator for the students.
Now, you were born in Victoria, but you moved at a young age to Vancouver, is that right?
Yes, well, but still we connect with Victoria continually. We never actually left Victoria because the homestead was there, the aunts and the uncles and grandfather was there. So it's always, at that time, you know, the Canadian Pacific steamship sailing from harbor to harbor was easy to go back.
Now, your grandfather was really a pioneer. You know, like the 1800s pioneer. I think. And he was making uniforms for the Canadian Pacific?
Grandfather Nip Ing was 1981.
1881. Yeah.
Started the Yik Fung Company on 544 Fiskart Street. The building is still there.
That's Victoria, by the way.
That's in Victoria. That's where we were born, and that's where our first home was.
Yeah.
He was the first Chinese merchant, the first Chinese textile manufacturer. He manufactured all the textile for all the department store. At that time was the Bay, the Hudson's Bay department store, Spencer's, who later became Eaton's and Sears. And also like all the tea towels, the linens and pillowcases and all that. Then follow with, at the same time, uniforms for the Canadian Pacific steamship, Princess Louise, Princess Jones, and all that for the cooks and that. Then also work clothes for the sawmills and the mines, the coal mine. And Denman, I remember the Denman machine making buttons, but we were never, never, never to this very day allowed to wear Denmans because they're not for anything but labor's uniform.
You mean denim?
Denim.
Yeah. Okay, you said Denman.
Well, Chinglish, what do you expect?
Perfection.
Perfecto, like the Italians say.
Now, there's lots of good reasons to explore your family history.
Oh, so much.
But, you know, they pioneered in business, and then you, as a very young woman, married to Dean, I think fairly young, but you pioneered in business too. You trailblazed all sorts of things.
All the way.
Now, tell us about how you got into the Hudson's Bay Company, the first Oriental hired by the Hudson's Bay Company.
Oh, I've done so much. I was very young, and the Chinese pioneers, as be told me, as the ambassador at large to fight for equality for the Chinese, because we were all suffering so much of restrictions and discriminations and taboos and everything.
But how did you get into the Bay? You went to see the manager?
The generations before me all were unable to get employment. And then even my generation, the third generation, educated here was absolutely still Chinese national. They don't care how long you've been born in elsewhere in the world, you still consider China as the motherland. So when Mary Lee, which became the First Lady of Alberta, who married...
That's your sister.
No. Mary Lee is the First Lady of Alberta marrying the Lieutenant Governor Normie Kong, the Eskimo.
But that's not a relative of yours.
But Mary Lee graduated together.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because you two went to the Bay together, did you not? No. Where was it?
We graduated together at the Vancouver College, and we were very young. And Mr. Moore was saying that, no, okay, you gals, no jobs for you because you're Canadian, Chinese. You're Chinese, so there's no jobs. And the constitutions in Canada, all those multiple national, is Constitution no Oriental or East Indian. They hire no Oriental, no East Indian on their job. So Mr. Moore says, you're on your own. And so, of course, Mary, she's such a wealthy family, she doesn't have to work. And I don't think she worked a day, but anyhow, I had to work. I have to help my family and make a living and all that. In those days, it was tough. And I just decided that I'm going to go and see Mr. Ernie H. Brown, the general manager of the Hudson's Bay department store. I went right up to his office, and he sat there in this big, huge, beautiful walnut desk, and distinguished as ever. And I says, I'm Faye Leung, and I'm qualified in secretarial and office work.
But also translations.
Oh, I can do that too. I can translate, I can interpret. I speak 7 dialects of Chinese, and I can read and write Chinese, but you're not going to hire me in any of the job because I'm Chinese. And he was amazed. He called the personnel manager in, and the personnel manager in his slim gray suit looked at me and says, and Mr. Brown in his 3-piece brown suit says, well, what's all this about? And he says, well, sorry, but the multiple national company doesn't hire Chinese, no Orientals of any sort, and East Indian. So Mr. Brown and I said to him, you know, beside reading and writing and doing bookkeeping and typing and secretarial work, administration, I'm very experienced in merchandising.
I'm just going to interject there because you had a lot of business experience in your family's businesses.
Yeah, well, I have very good experience in director of sale. I was in director of sale. in Chinese merchandising and groceries and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm very good at purchasing of merchandising, and I can help. And then on your payday, I can do all your translations and all your interpretation. So he looked at me very seriously. Well, you're a pretty good image. Then how about you do 3 jobs for the price of 1? And I was to read all the cash register on the main floor at 7 o'clock in the morning. Then I would go upstairs and do my bookkeeping on the bookkeeping machine, under the B's. So all the B's, a stack of invoices and credit cards and all that would be my job to enter all the B's, including Mr. Breyer, because he's Ernie H. Brown. And then I do translation and interpretations.
So you got hired. That was 1953?
And that was $100 a month for 3 jobs for the price of 1.
Wow.
But that was good because we got into the door and I slowly was able to open the door to the Bay and for the multinational company to hire Chinese. And I was very pleased that I was able to
But you didn't stay there very long.
Oh, yes, I did.
Well, you married Dean about the same, shortly after?
No, I was married. I was married already.
Oh, okay.
No, but I don't remember before or after, but whatever it is, but we had to work. We have to fly. We had, what is it at those days? What you call 白手興家? Do you know what I'm talking about? You don't have money in your hands to start your life. You are freely using your 2 hands to start your life, and for your future and together. So that means whether you're married or single, 白手興家, you're empty-handedly without funds, but you're going to work for what your life shall be. So I subsequently, in a year later, in 1954, my sister Gwen, who is a doctor of biochem, graduated at UBC with a Gold Award medal because she's an absolutely great student. Not me, I hate school.
Well, you're smart.
I'm a monkey of the year of the monkey, I think. I'm not on the year of the monkey, but I'm like a monkey. Supposed to be clever and all that kind of thing. But we won't talk about that.
Yeah, we've only got 20 minutes.
Okay, so whatever it is, so Gwen were same thing. She's a pharmacist, no jobs, and we went to Woodward's department store. At that time was the largest pharmaceutical and Western department store in Vancouver. You remember the Woodward's department store on Abbott and Hastings. So we went directly to the pharmaceutical department, Mr. Davies. You're not going to hire Gwen because she's Chinese, huh? So Mr. David was kind enough, he went to the board of director to try to change that constitutions of no Oriental and East Indian. So that's how Gwen conquered Woodward's department store and opened the doors for the Chinese Canadians. So we're very proud.
We got to move forward. You got a real estate license at a very young age?
Oh, I was the youngest in license of real estate broker in Canada.
And then you and Dean opened the first trust company in Chinatown?
Oh, we opened our Pender Realty and Insurance Agency in real estate insurance of all types, financing, property management, mortgages, financing, construction, development, and trades, international trade, etc. But in 1962, I have convinced, I just felt there was business in the trust company that is missing because there was no money depositing or people knowledge of deposit account of daily interest in trust company at that time. And I was doing a lot of correspondence of banking between Hong Kong and Far East and Canada. So instead of correspondence, I said to the Western General Manager, J.D. Wilson, I says, you know, you're missing the boat. And you're the trust company. There's no trust company in Canada that has a branch office in anywhere in Canada that can take deposit. And I think that I should be the founder of that first trust company branch office in Canada. In my office, we will organize it. We will educate the people of daily interest and take deposit instead of quarterly interest.
And what was the address of that?
That was in my Pender Realty, right in the heart of Chinatown, 156 East Pender. And I rocked the financial district. They went berserk. That how come Dean and I was the first one that found and opened the first trust company branch until you got so much deposit, thousands of deposit. then they opened, that's where the Chinese
Now,
the branch is now.
You also pioneered some international trade, but I don't think we have time to get there.
Oh, that's another story, another
but
time.
You won the Man of the Month award.
Oh, yes.
Tell me that.
I'm not much of a man of the month.
It was the Vancouver, not the Board of Trade, it was
No,
Visitors
it was
and
the
Convention?
Vancouver Visitor and Greater
Convention.
Vancouver Convention
Yeah.
Bureau way back in 1970, and I was honored as the Man of the Year because
Man of the Year or Man of the Month?
Both. I brought in so many tours from Brazil, everywhere. I promoted tourism abroad, and I got the award from the BC government for promotion tourism abroad. I'd done a lot of tourism since 1949, and then in the 70s I was awarded that. So I said to Mr. Harold Merrily, he was then the general manager, I says, I'm not much of a man, because subsequently, 15 years after I got my second son, was born during that period. That was on Centennial Year, the year of Canada's Centennial, 1974.
Okay, we got a few minutes left, but as we're recording this, it's the day after the funeral for Dal Richards.
Yes,
and
current affair.
You used to dance at the top of the...
Mandarin.
The
top of the Hotel Vancouver.
Yeah, we didn't even mention your restaurant, the Mandarin,
don't talk
which
about
pioneered
that.
the dim sum.
Here it is.
But the dancing skills, you and Dean, your husband, were really good dancers to the point that everybody else on the floor would walk away to watch you do the tango to Dal, and then and you and Dal became quite close, I gather.
Yes, that's right. We danced there before we were married. We were young teenagers. We were dancers, and with 43 years we danced together. Tango, creek waltz, the rumba, the samba, the bossa nova, the cha-cha-cha, the Congo, you name it, we danced it.
How did you practice, or where did you practice?
We don't practice, we just dance.
did it?
But Dean has his own calligraphy. You follow him and you dance. And you dance and you dance and you dance.
Well,
and this is why I wrote a very lovely details of Dal from the beginning of the time when we danced to the very last. This is Dal who wrote me this in his own handwriting last year, September 29, 14. Because I asked him at lunch down here in Broad Street, I says, a lot of people want to know what is the name of your theme song, The Last Dance. So he says, to Faye, Dal Richards' theme song, The Hour of Parting. And Dal Richards signed it September 29th, and his email, his telephone, and he said, you are marvelous, Faye. You're the same. You danced to my orchestra back in 49 and 50s.
No, very touching thing. I think we've got time to squeeze it in. Your husband, Dean, died on that dance floor.
Yes, it was very sad. And
but Dal said, I wish I could go that way.
Oh yes, because Dean and I was dancing the quick waltz on the Blue Daniel, and Blue Daniel was one of our favorite songs. And he doesn't do much work. I'm the one that does most of the footwork, and he's very good at leading that. And all of a sudden, he let me off the dance floor. He escorted me to the dance floor and sat on the table. And I said, you're not feeling well. And this couple follow us. And they said that I want to tell you how much we admire your dancing, and I want to know how long you danced together. And you are just like newlyweds dancing cheek to cheek, and I were just so thrilled to see you dance. So Dean was just raising his right hand to his eyebrow to answer him. We danced 43 years, and we've been married for 40 years, over 40 years. And he closed his eyes and went. And that was the time of the Blue Daniel still playing. It was heart failure. And doctor said even with a second he wouldn't have. So Dal Richard said to me a few days after, when we were talking, when he phoned and gave me his condolence, he said, you know, I want to go that way, but only with my sax or trump in my hand, because
he did was just, in a way.
Well,
he didn't make it to New Year's.
But he was at home.
Playing up to age 99, so...
No, he's
98, pardon me.
97 is 97, when, he, on December the 31st at 11:41, he died in his home. But he was sick for a few weeks prior to that, I was told. But, and they were just so good to me at the Hotel Vancouver. And Nancy Wong was a director, and Louis, and they were so good. And later I met up with this couple at the Tong Louis, the chairman of the London Drug memorial, and they came over, and I thanked them. It was us that was with you at that time that asked that question, so it was really quite sad,
Well,
and I
Faye,
miss him very much.
I know. And I got to thank you for doing this.
It's my pleasure.
We're done. But, you know, folks, Faye's working on a set of books, some history storytelling books. And I sure hope we find some sponsors to get those books
we need
done.
sponsors to get an edit. You be a good editor and have it published,
perhaps.
because it's tremendous stories, part and parcel of the Canadian history.
We just scraped the top here. Of
Not even a top.
Yeah.
We haven't even scraped anything. It's not even a drop.
Yeah, there's
But
so
it is
much.
important Canadian historical heritage, preserved for posterity, for future generation to know of life as it happened. The life and time, the heart and soul that woven the gold fabric, but inlaid with black thread, that the fabric of society, to give back to society. So thank you ever so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
And happy Chinese New Year, the
Gong Hei to
monkey.
you too. Gong Hei Fat Choi. And thank you for watching.